Welcome to the Spy Archive, where truth hides in the shadows of history. Tonight, we uncover the haunting mystery of a woman once called the Bride of the Rhine, a name whispered across war-torn Europe. She was beautiful, dangerous, and utterly devoted to a cause that consumed her soul. But when the guns fell silent, she vanished. Who was Sybil de Clowre, and where did she go? Let's step into the darkness and find out. They called her the Bride of the Rhine, but among Allied intelligence officers and nervous German field commanders, the real name that inspired dread was Sybil de Clowre. Cold flame and shadow in equal parts, de Clowre was renowned as one of the most effective and most dangerous agents the German war machine ever unleashed. Beautiful, ruthless, and unwavering in her devotion to Nazism, Sybil de Clowre's story is one of paradoxes, betrayals, impossible loyalties, and the bitter twilight of war. Born on a storm-shrouded spring night in 1917 to a Belgian father and a German mother, de Clowre's childhood was shaped by duality. Her mother, earnest and enterprising, ran a small cafe in Bruges. Her father, who spent long months away working on river barges, drifted in and out of his family's life, leaving Sybil to become the constant support. Even before the war, however, the cafe was more than a place for weary locals. It was a crossroads for strangers, a place where secrets could be overheard, and where Sybil learned to read both faces and silences. This skill would serve her ominously well. In 1940, as German boots thundered down Belgian streets, everything changed overnight. De Clowre, barely into adulthood, witnessed the collapse of a world. Yet, unlike most, she was unafraid. Her German heritage and fluent command of both French and German positioned her awkwardly between occupier and occupied. It did not take long for her mother's cafe, once the pride of Bruges, to attract a new clientele, German officers and, especially, members of the Gestapo seeking moments of comfort in taut, desperate times. Respectable Belgians shunned the establishment. The rumor spread quickly. The de Clowre cafe harbored collaborators and worse. Sybil was accused of moral betrayal. Under the dim cafe lights, however, she saw only opportunity. Among the officers who favored her mother's coffee and brisk shrewdness, one in particular would set in motion Sybil de Clowre's transformation into a formidable shadow, the man known as Werner Kramer. Tall, sharply handsome, possessed of a certain iron charisma, Kramer held the ominous post of head of intelligence for the German Storm Division, a division renowned for its audacity and dogged reach. Kramer was the architect behind a series of bold operations up and down the Western Front, deploying men behind Allied lines, slipping spies across the Rhine in fishing boats or guiding them from dusk-lit drop zones behind enemy lines. Kramer quickly recognized Sybil's talents. It began simply. She interpreted conversations, delivered coded messages, ferried innocuous parcels to seemingly innocent recipients. She was invisible and indispensable, a ghost in broad daylight, overlooked because no one believed one so young and poised could be privy to destruction. For Sybil, the work was intoxicating, her devotion to Kramer fervent, fed by admiration, desire, and the sense of purpose he inspired. As trust grew between them, so too did the intimacy of their partnership. Not only did Kramer become her lover, he became her cause. Under his mentoring, Sybil graduated from courier to operative, mastering the black arts of espionage, forging documents, ciphers, surveillance, and the subtle art of assassination. It was said that she could slip a knife between someone's ribs with neither malice nor pleasure, only the efficiency of one who believed the cause justified everything. For nearly 3 years, de Clowre drifted between France, Luxembourg, and the battered German Alsace border, orchestrating acts of sabotage and intercepting Allied messages. She built networks of informants in towns and villages, exploiting even the smallest fissures in the occupied populations. Her beautiful composure concealed a heart of calculation. Those who suspected her or threatened to expose a cell simply vanished, a chill warning in a gathering storm. No story of Sybil de Clowre can be told without understanding her unwavering faith in the ideology that had swept across Europe. Unlike many agents, motivated by fear, greed, or survival, de Clowre believed, profoundly and dangerously, in the inevitability of German victory and the righteousness of the cause. While many around her faltered as the tides of war shifted, her devotion drove her deeper into Allied territory, even as Germany's prospects dimmed. In 1944, after the Allied landings in Normandy, as German lines began to buckle beneath the world's mightiest armies, de Clowre moved into her most audacious role. With Kramer given carte blanche to conduct sabotage behind enemy lines, de Clowre took command of the network in the ruined city of Cologne and the east bank of the Rhine. Cologne's fate mirrored that of the Reich, bombed to ruin, then fought street by street as the Allies advanced. The Rhine transformed into more than a river, it became a fortress, a last redoubt, and the focus of de Clowre's operations. As the thunder of American artillery echoed off the shattered spires of Cologne Cathedral, Kramer prepared for what he believed would be a catastrophic Allied miscalculation. He funneled men, weapons, and explosives across the front. De Clowre was tasked with holding the spy network together under intolerable pressure, no easy feat with collaborators hunted by partisans and allies, all the while feeding back intelligence about American troop movements, supply depots, and the condition of the battered crossing points on the Rhine. For the agents trapped behind the lines, Sybil was the voice on the radio, the courier in the shadows, the orchestrator of sabotage. At night, she would change appearances, posing as a Belgian nurse, a displaced French civilian, or a German railway clerk. She sabotaged Allied ammunition stores, organized the assassination of key informants, and embedded explosives beneath the tires of armored cars. Yet, in the end, even her iron will could not stave off the approaching collapse. The tide could not be turned. As American, British, and Free French forces pushed farther into German territory, the spy networks crumbled. Gestapo files were evacuated or destroyed by fire and acid. Some agents slipped away across the Rhine to fight another day, others perished in last stands echoing the fanaticism instilled in them. Among them, de Clowre prepared her own final gambit, with the city's remnants a nightmarish labyrinth of shattered stone and flickering shadows. She crafted her escape. Disguised as a shell-shocked French woman displaced by the Nazi retreat, she approached the American lines, weaving a story of loss and terror. For a time, her beauty and apparent anguish bought her freedom and trust. Allied officers were moved by her story, until inconsistencies in her background and uncanny knowledge of Allied radio procedures aroused suspicion. A quick search uncovered a set of forged documents tucked within the hem of her dress. She was taken in for interrogation, the Allied officers uncertain whether their prisoner was simply a tragic refugee or something more dangerous. The battle between suspicion and empathy played out across harshly lit tables and behind double-locked doors. But the Allies had prepared. Among their files were the names and descriptions of Kramer's mistresses. Sybil de Clowre's name featured prominently. Realizing that her web of lies was collapsing, Sybil confessed, swayed perhaps less by fear for her own life than by the gradual, agonizing realization that Kramer, her cause, her lover, may have abandoned her. Allied officers, skilled in leveraging fractures of the heart, pressed the issue. They claimed knowledge of another woman, Marie, Kramer's supposed French paramour, insinuating that Sybil had been sent into the jaws of defeat, expendable, disposable. Wounded pride and heartbreak became the lever that pried open her secrets. What followed was a tide of revelations. De Clowre listed the names, ranks, and locations of over 200 Gestapo agents, guided Allied teams to bunkers containing thousands of sensitive files, and mapped out the hiding places and safe houses that had harbored German agents for years in the heart of Allied-occupied territory. Her information led to the capture and arrest of agents who, by Allied estimates, might have kept the embers of sabotage burning for years after the cannons fell silent. Yet, there was one secret she would not part with. Werner Kramer, the architect of her fate, remained protected. Time and again, when presented with candidates, men brought in, men described, men whose profiles matched Kramer's, de Clowre feigned ignorance or outright denial. Whether from lingering devotion or an unbroken loyalty to their shared cause, she would go no further. In the closing days of the war, Sybil de Clowre's fate became the subject of heated debate. To the Allies, especially American command, she was both an asset and a liability, a collaborator made useful, but whose crimes and motivations could not easily be forgiven. To the Belgians, she was at once an infamous traitor and a paradoxical hero. After Germany's final surrender, she was transferred from Allied to Belgian custody for trial. The trial unfolded against a background of national trauma. Evidence of her sabotage, her role in abetting the Gestapo, and her multiple acts of murder and conspiracy were stacked against her testimony. De Clowre, for her part, argued that her ultimate contribution, providing the Allies with information that led to the collapse of Gestapo cells throughout the Rhine corridor, had atoned for her earlier crimes. The Belgian court was unmoved. She was sentenced to death, a resolution that closed one chapter but opened another. De Clowre refused to yield. On appeal, her defense pointed to evidence supplied by American intelligence, the letter describing the dismantling of Gestapo networks, the arrest of over 200 agents, the seizures of archives, and the countless lives thereby spared. The argument was stark: she had done terrible things, but her late collaboration irreversibly changed the course of the war's end. Years passed while legal authorities argued. De Clowre remained imprisoned, her health and spirit battered but unbroken. In 1949, her case was reviewed a final time. It was determined that the years Sybil had spent in incarceration, alongside her contributions, albeit forced, to the Allied cause, comprised a form of repentance. The court commuted her sentence, and she was released, free again. Sybil de Clowre faded into the post-war world, her youthful beauty worn but her legendary mystique undimmed. She was seen, on occasion, gliding along the banks of the Rhine, her gaze fixed on the unknowable horizon. Among the ruins and rebirth of Europe, stories of her past haunted both survivors and their children. She was called the Bride of the Rhine, an almost mythic figure, part Avenger, part traitor, her loyalties lost to the river's ceaseless flow. Thus ended the legend of Sybil de Clowre, a spy whose skill and ferocity left a scar across the battlegrounds of the 20th century, and whose enigmatic love and betrayal became one of wartime's most haunting legacies. Her story faded into the river's mist, but legends never truly die. Some say the Bride of the Rhine still walks the shadows of Europe, watching, waiting, a ghost of the war that never left her. If this story intrigued you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more untold tales of spies, secrets, and shadows, only here, on the Spy.